Welcome back to another episode of Destiny Lore and Theories. This is the third installment of my faction series where I talk about the various factions making up the Last City. This episode concerns the lore and history behind Future War Cult. There is no future but now, no truth but war. If we can use one word to sum up Future War Cult as a whole, it would be mysterious. Extremely little is really known about the faction, which, like New Monarchy and Dead Orbit, traces its history back to the earlier days of the Last City. How Future War Cult differs from the other factions is their belief, no, their obsession with the idea of time travel. Future War Cult's founder is Dr. Maya Sundresh, a scientist based in Lhasa, a territory presumed to be on Venus. Using Vex Gateway systems, she and her team built a machine that seemed to be capable of transporting a person, or at least their mind, to another time. Subjects placed in the device would experience a large variety of sensations, from floating to seeing lights to more intense visions to a feeling of taking one's own hand. More than one of these tests ended with the subject screaming and near death. At least one ended with the subject committing suicide. To combat this, a drug was created by Rasputin, one of the war minds, to protect the mind of anyone using the machine. At some point, however, the device was abandoned, first by the doctor herself, and eventually by the rest of the team. We are given various answers from Dr. Sundresh, including the belief that the human mind is too weak, or that it is simply unwilling to understand. Perhaps the most powerful reason Maya chose to leave the project was to be reunited with her lover, Kioma Essie, something that couldn't be done while she was away overseeing such an extensive mission. Tomorrow will be as yesterday was. There will always be a battle to be won. There is evidence that Cade 6, the Hunter Vanguard, not only worked closely with Dr. Sundresh, but that his feelings for her may have bordered on romantic. He refers to her as brilliant, driven, beautiful. I can see her so clearly. Dark hair split into smooth, shimmering strands fanning over her forehead. Gray irises blooming as she looks up from her work to see me standing there beside her. No, she doesn't know me at all, doesn't even recognize my face, even though I've been standing over her shoulders for months. I'm nothing more than a fixture, a required imposition, an unwanted necessity. Eventually, the device, or at least a prototype of the device, was rediscovered, although how many years may have passed in the meantime is unknown. What we do know is that it has been used again by the Future War Cult of today, and likely many times. According to the record-keeping done by Future War Cult members, at the time Dr. Sundresh left, the device had been tested approximately 52 times. When we again see the same kind of record-keeping, we can see it's been tested a total of 7,887 times, and the number only keeps rising from there. We actually see a similar style of record-keeping by the Exo Stranger, documenting her experiences as Record 084, Bridge 10.7, and so on. This is extremely familiar to the Record 343 Chasm 7887 style used by the Future War Cult device trials. This means that, while there's no real hard evidence connecting the two, the Exo Stranger must have access to the same time travel or mind forking device invented by Dr. Maya Sundresh. The Exo Stranger could even be Dr. Maya Sundresh, or perhaps Kioma Essie. Based on what little we know now, either is a possibility. Regardless of who she may be, we may not even be speaking with the real Exo Stranger, but a mere projection of her image, given her ability to appear and disappear across vast distances. Granted, a projection that can interact with her environment, but quite possibly a projection nonetheless. Regardless, the Exo Stranger being able to use the device extensively without obvious madness taking root makes sense. Future War Cult has considered dropping the idea of human subjects and using ghosts instead. While it's widely believed that Exos do retain a more human consciousness, they are still technically machines. Ghosts are even less human-like than Exos, and likely less able to simulate human experiences. As such, it makes perfect sense for an Exo to be the ideal candidate to use in a device that risks driving humans mad. Exos have a machine body with human consciousness. They can relay human experiences without actually being human. There is another factor that could lead to the assumption that Future War Cult is the most powerful of all the city factions, and that is that they have the aid of Rasputin himself. Or at least they once did. Rasputin lent his support to Maya Sundresh and her team, and though he now lies dormant, we know that he has been obsessed with the idea of time travel. Perhaps when he once again decides to support the Guardians, if he ever decides to support the Guardians, perhaps he will lend his support to the future war cult as well. Especially since there is evidence the future war cult is responsible for his reawakening in the first place. But that, Guardian, is a discussion for another episode. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Destiny Lore and Theories. If you wish to support the channel, consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing, and be sure to join me next time.